So, where to begin? Welcome to episode 1 of Studio NoCode behind the scenes. This is my first attempt to putting together something of value for you guys all to see the process that we're going through at Studio NoCode and have fun with it. We are 2.5 weeks into our first MVP and then 1.5 weeks into our second MVP. We started 6 weeks ago, maybe 7 weeks ago. 2 clients, $25,000 plus of revenue.
Yeah, so let's maybe just at a bullet point level discuss the high level of, which user flows we're talking about here. So, we have different user roles, and we could just at a high level talk about that with Adam and then get into maybe what flow each user role would go through.
Got it. Okay, so I always am starting from kind of the customer perspective right now. So we're an online marketplace, but
we're making a marketplace application connecting local caterers that are smaller, more diverse, that could probably normally not be able to fulfill a very large order like an enterprise, like a university, with multiple caterers to kind of like do this whole, like community kitchen kind of thing, to bring it all together to help these mom and pop shops get more business, and then also at the same time help enterprises work with these more diverse mom and pop shops, get fantastic food, lower prices, but they're working together to have 3 or 4 caterers service one order. So the goal here is to put together our database for homemade, we don't need to do the entire database, but we should talk through some of the big decisions and just get that situated, so that way we can just start building with RGs and data sources and all that kind of good stuff, right?
Yeah, exactly.
It's game time, so we got to get to it. So I'm going to share, well, first I'll send you these links. So this has like 10 products compared to doing a search for 10 products. List field is much faster, but you start to see performance gains once there's like 100 items or more. Then it just makes so much more sense to do its own data type and do a search for and then constrain it by the company. But if you just have a little list field like this and it's like 5, 10, 15, this is the way. Another project we're doing is a social project for political parties. So the goal is you just go to this website, we pull your IP address, we get your address, and we immediately tell you who is your representatives, who is your political representative, who is representing you in a state, senate, all that kind of stuff. And then what are they like in the news? What have they voted on recently? All that kind of stuff. So that's a really educational and fun project as well. And it's social. You have like this feed, likes, comments, all that. So that's been really fun. And so the next step for us is to get into design. We have a designer kind of earmarked for you next week to start designing this thing out. We'd get into wireframes, just be black and white wireframes going through each of the flows. And then we'd see a little bit of a prototype so you can click through it, make sure you're good with those user flows, get everything approved, and then we'll start development. But does starting design next week feel good to you? The studio process is not something that is new for us, or at least for me. Before the tech industry, I was a filmmaker, and I ran my own production company for many, many years, 10 years, right? Pretty much.
My name is JJ Englert, and I'm a PGA producer and the founder of Industry Jump. I produce content for television, feature films, and for some of the biggest artists around, reaching over 100 million online views. As part of Industry Jump's mission to provide the most talented filmmakers for hire, we've created a course to teach young producers everything they need to know to elevate their career. I'll take you through all the most important aspects of producing, like crew management, working with unions, along with 14 other videos to ensure you have all the information you need to grow your business. Sign up now to get started.
That was me freelancing. That was me getting my own clients, music videos, feature films, all that thing. And then I started my first tech startup, and I've been in tech ever since. But I know what it's like to work with clients, service those clients, prepare estimates for those clients, deliver on expectations for those clients. So I have a lot of experience with that, but first time running an actual dev agency. But at the same time, I've also been working professionally for multiple years now, which is essentially working for a client, because you're working for the CEO, the CMO, etc. You need to make them happy. They give you a brief, etc. And so client work is nothing new. Working in your own company, agency, is nothing new. And David, such a humble guy. He'll never say it, but he has one of the biggest acquisitions for a company mostly built on Bubble that I know of personally. All I can say is it's 8 figures, and he is too humble to admit it. You know me, I would freaking be on the rooftops shouting that everywhere, letting everyone know. But not David. He's a humble, good guy like that, right? And so super successful in his own right. David was one of the first Bubble Bootcamp instructors. Actually, I think the first. So he started this train, I think back in 2016, 2017, and he just is a phenomenal dev, and he knows so much about building awesome things. And that's why it's been so funny coming together for the first time, because working as a team is hard, right? Everyone has different styles. Everyone builds differently. And I think it's been fun working with Dave in the sense of we come from different backgrounds. I come from a team background. I'm used to working with a team of developers. And Dave is used to bootstrapping, hacking his way in a very smart way to do it, but kind of in a solo way, you know, to the point where little things like naming structures or even just the way we build, you know, like I will build my UI, desktop, tablet, mobile, responsive, all dynamic to the get-go. Dave, he likes just seeing everything real quick, visualize it. So he'll just build everything statically, static groups, etc. He'll get it up really, really quick and it looks great, but then it's all static and you got to go through and make it dynamic. And so things like that in the beginning stages of building this first app with Studio NoCode has been fun and challenging. I was joking with Dave the other night that, you know, I saw his UI for the first time before I went to bed, and like my heart was like racing. And like I needed to like not look at that UI before I went to bed because I was like getting all worked up in a not a bad way, but like you know, and I'm also like a super Bubble nerd, right? And so yes, we are spinning up these things quick, but still like our name is on it, and we still need to do a really good job. And also we need to structure it in a way where he can get in there, I can get in there, we understand what's going on. And then furthermore, once we get into our service agreements, we have further team members going in there and helping us service them. They need to understand it all, you know? And then the entrepreneur itself that we're building this for, you know, if they hire anyone else or they try to do it themselves, they also understand it. So good workflow folders, you know, just internal documentation or Lucid, you know, database, you know, that we put together, like all that kind of stuff come together to create this application that, you know, should be fantastic for our clients and also easier for us to manage. And coming together for the first time on an application is hard, right? You don't have like this onboarding time. You don't have this time of like, here's how I do it, here's how you do it. Maybe we should find that time, but so far we haven't. We've gone right into building it. And I'll just say like, it's all good, right? Dave is such a good, humble guy. And then me at the same time, I need to like not be as anal and say, okay, well, if it's not named that way, whatever, it's fine. Do I understand it? That was, you know, and so we're finding that balance, Dave and I working together for the first time on this first app.
I think one thing we didn't take into account on this first project here is how we talk about how we build, right? And actually get in alignment on the use of different things, reusables or styles, or the order that we build UIs and functions in. So I always like to build the UI first and then hook things up. I think JJ is learning that the hard way. And I know that he likes to start more database planned, lots of reusables, and I kind of like going in the other direction. I also like to build in a broad strokes kind of fashion, and then zoom in onto the finer details. I find it easier to test and get things working in that direction. And so we should learn to, you know, talk these things through. And this is the part of starting a business and an agency, learning how to work together. And so it's been interesting to see so far.
And it's been funny. It's been a funny journey, but we're putting it together well, and it's looking good, and it's coming along, and I'm really proud of that. And every app that we do after this can get better and easier, all that kind of stuff. And essentially, we'll start to find our balance, of like what makes sense, what doesn't make sense, what stuff do we need to do, what do we not need to do. And I've been doing this for the last 2 years in a team first, client first kind of way, right? So I think I know, right? And so I'm kind of leading the way there, and Dave's been giving me the freedom to do that. But at the same time, this is a little bit different. This is just a 2-person shop now, with Dave and I. And so we're seeing what makes sense for us as a partnership. And you'll definitely have to keep following along to see how it goes. We needed to work together. Originally, we were just going to build, like a quick MVP in 48 hours just to showcase what we can do. And then we were like, well, we don't want to build just to build. So let's find something else. Let's find something that's worth it. And then eventually one day I was like, Bubble's really good at building MVPs. Like, you can spin them up faster than any other platform. And they're really strong, powerful, scalable MVPs. Like, it's just a fantastic platform for MVPs. And we happen to be really good at Bubble. And that is a win-win. Use this technology to its advantage, and to use our skills to our advantage, use our reputation to get clients to our advantage. Let's do this agency together. And then we were like, well, we don't want to service other people's projects, because we don't want to inherit all of those problems. We're not doing this to do that. We're not doing this to really make money. We're doing this to have fun, to build stuff, to make a mark, to help entrepreneurs get to the next step, and to make money, of course. But we want to have fun doing it. And so Dave and I both have a lot of different income or revenue streams, and so revenue isn't the main driver for us, is what I'm trying to say with Studio NoCode, which is liberating because we get to have fun. We get to pick the clients that we want to work with, and kind of remove some of that pressure because of such, So 6 weeks in, loving it so far. Working with Dave, it's like a heavyweight battle going back and forth of optimization strategies of, well, Dave, I think if we do it this way. Yeah, but what about if we do it this way? Sure, but what about if we do it this way? Him and I going back and forth, and I try not to do it too much, but when I'm in the editor and I see something, I'm like, Dave, you shouldn't have done that extra search. You should just recycle that, And he's like, well, those searches all count the same. It's 2 of the same searches. Bubble's just doing 1 search. I'm like, are you sure? Are we can we confirm that? Should we stop what we're doing and do a Bubble test to confirm this theory right now? That's where we're at the level of trying to find optimization for our clients and our builds while nerding out at the same time. Working with someone, having a partner in that way is educational. It's fun. It's hard. It requires so much communication. But if you can do that part, then you can grow faster. David was on a vacation. He's getting ready. He's getting married. God bless him. He, has a lot of stuff coming up. I got his back. I'm going on vacation this upcoming week. He has my back. Things like that makes that partnership so great. And I think that's why things are going so good so far. We're just completely transparent, honest with each other, communicate well enough to each other. I think there were some things that we did with our scoping that could have been a lot better.
We've already seen with kind of this first build that there are a few different points at which a scope is subject to scope creep or complexities. The first one we saw just at the outset, right? We hear the entrepreneur talking about all of these things they might want later, all of these things after launch, features that would be nice to have. And that's the first place where we need to really scope down and understand what is the core problem we're trying to solve and their business is trying to solve, and how can we build just the MVP of that. The second time scope creep we've seen come up is during the design phase, right? In our process, a week design comes before our build. And if we're not careful, when the designer takes these concepts and starts putting them into wireframes and full designs, we actually see that additional features can magically appear, right? They're not really in the brief, but it kind of makes the screen feel more complete, right? Things that you may see in other applications, buttons, text, features that someone might expect that aren't really within scope for the minimum viable product. And if you're not careful, when you approve a set of designs, you may end up needing to build more features and more complex UI and screens than you had initially intended for. And this scoping becomes really important in understanding what needs to be built. And another example of this is sometimes when the features are designed and discussed from the entrepreneur that we work with and us, they add a lot of constraints and needs and complexity to a feature. And so this just happened recently where, we had a feature with ordering and creating substitutions and on menus. And the way it was described had a lot of intricacies, right? And it took us 2 days battling through all of these conditions, these like endless loops of logic. And it became kind of a bear in the middle of this work. And we need to make sure that we can actually still deliver a working product by the end of the timeline. And so after talking with the entrepreneur and relaxing just a couple constraints, no real significant difference in the UI, and actually something I think will end up being a better long-term solution, a better automation system was the problem we were running into. After having this conversation, we were able to build this feature in less than a few hours. And now this is why scoping is so important and really understanding the intricacies of the design. Because normally if I was building an app for myself, I have the decision power to make a change, to make a simplification. But when you're working with a client in this kind of relationship, if you don't have an open line of communication and you haven't properly scoped, features can really grow in scope and bloat, even with the best intentions. And so, we need to be better at scoping things effectively, communicating when things are taking longer than they expect, and trying to understand how we can make changes that both hit the needs of the client, right, the entrepreneur and the MVP, but also for us in our agency work to make sure we can deliver on time and on budget.
Right, and then it's like going back to the client, and just communicating. It's like being honest. Design process got a bit away from us, right? Things were added in there that increased the scope that we didn't catch fast enough. And we need to remove that for now because we just can't include that in the V1 MVP. We're 4 weeks, limited time, limited budget. We don't want to charge you anymore. So we're going to pull it away, get you your deadline on time, and then spend a couple days off the books just trying to get in what we can to get you there. But that was kind of our way of saying, you know what, we want to make it right. We didn't catch this in our design process. It is extra work. But we don't want to charge you anything, because the last thing we want to do is first client, second client, halfway into a build, hey, it's going to cost twice as much. Hey, it's going to cost 2 times as much. Because isn't that the freaking story that every agency does? And there's no way I wanted to start off this agency like that. So it's like, hey, we agreed to it, we scoped it, we're going to deliver it on time, on budget, there it is. And then we'll go above and beyond and do a couple of days off the books and get you that as well, right? I think that's just great business. That's how you create good relationships. And we want them to be successful, because then they will go off and make a success out of us and what we built for them. And their team will grow and we will grow with them, all that kind of stuff. So it's a win-win. You can't be caught in those micro 10-minute 30-minute, 60-minute decisions of like, well, can I bill for this or not? Well, it's like, well, is this going to help your client be more successful? And if your client is more successful, they can make more money and pay you more money to build more. And so, yeah, you might not be paid for that hour or two, but are you going to deliver a better product that you can be proud of? Are you going to make your client happier? And is it going to increase their chances of succeeding? If so, that's a win, baby. Take that all day long, right? So, yeah. If for nothing else, let this episode just be a piece of documentation showing this process, empowering you to go out there and do it for yourself. Again, 6 weeks ago, we had nothing. We didn't even have a landing page. We had a tweet. We said, hey, we're going to make MVPs for $10,000. And then everyone was like, no, that's too cheap. And we're like, oh, we didn't do any research. We just thought that felt right. And so we'll double it. And MVPs for 20 grand. And then, along the way, it's like, when we actually start scoping, we're not just saying, hey, it's 20 grand because it's 20 grand. If it's less than 20 grand, we'll be less than 20 grand. And if it's more than 20 grand, we'll be more than 20 grand. But we like to productize our service at the 20 grand mark and say, that's kind of like our sweet spot for the 4-week threshold. Let's get in, let's get out, let's get you a V1, get to market, test it, and then we'll expand on it from there. We'll hop into a service agreement, all that stuff. But until then, let's get you to market ASAP with a fast, secure, production-ready application, and then it's going to be groovy from there. So I hope you guys enjoyed episode 1 of Studio NoCode, behind the scenes, building the studio. What is the goal? You always got to have goals, right? Mingo. I think the goal is that we are doing $1 million in revenue, tracking at an annual run rate, maybe within 6 to 9 months. If we can get to that $1 million threshold, that'd be pretty dope. So let's see what we can do. Tune in for more. See ya.